City Council. Come on, man. Sorry, y'all. Okay, I call the Maplewood City Council work session to order. Mr. Reese, would you please conduct roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Crossley,
Here.
Councilmember Fockingham,
Here.
Councilmember Homa,
Here.
Councilmember Jones, Mayor Knapper,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Phillips,
Here.
Mayor Knapper, we have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Jones?
Motion to excuse. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Mr. Reese or Councilmember Phillips, I'm not sure, but item number 4, please.
So I'm going to turn this over to Councilmember Phillips on accessory dwelling units. And also with us is Anthony Traxler virtually. Anthony, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes, we can.
Thanks.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Anthony, for joining us tonight. We have been working on revising these ordinances for most of the summer now. And as you all know, our ordinance review committee is looking at zoning changes. And this one in particular, we had decided to focus on because it does impact potentially housing affordability within Maplewood, as well as aging in place and multi-generational living, and a lot of things that have been identified as Maplewood priorities in our strategic planning and our recent sorry, COVID brain, in our recent retreat. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. So some of the changes that are currently being proposed have gone through the planning and zoning process over the last couple of months, and they have made several revisions to the original changes that Anthony proposed. And so it's been a work in progress over the last several meetings. And then last week, I also attended the Human Services Commission and got the support of the Human Services Commission. And then also on Wednesday of last week was the Planning and Zoning meeting, where we received unanimous approval from Planning and Zoning to bring these changes to council. And so what you had in your packet for tonight is the most recent revision, and that's what we're here to discuss tonight. Just to give everyone a little bit of background, not to go too deep into the weeds, but we might remember within the last 9 months or so, Webster Groves was recently interested in changing their zoning and creating more density within Webster Groves. And they did that, or they were trying to do that by creating multi-family residential within single family. And so this is more of a compromise. This is a way to create greater density at a much more limited basis, because it does still require going through the planning and zoning as well as the design and review board in order to build an ADU. Some of the most recent changes that have come from planning and zoning were initially we were looking at only detached ADUs, and apologies for everyone who's listening. ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. So we're looking at potentially if someone is, we might know them as granny flats, we might know them as she sheds. If you want to create an additional dwelling in your yard, it's currently prohibited by Maplewood ordinances. So in order to allow the creation of a secondary dwelling, either attached or detached onto your home, this is what we need to do, is we need to modify these ordinances in order to do that. So I think that's, I guess, just to reiterate what I was saying about Webster Groves is it was passed by council, but then voted down by referendum. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't make the same, I don't want to call it a mistake, but go that same route. And so we've been trying to make this process as transparent as possible and as inclusive as possible for the community. So we've had multiple meetings with planning and zoning, and this is our first sort of public conversation as a council. So that's my spiel.
I think it's great. Thank y'all. I sincerely appreciate the work that you all have done. And Sandy, excuse me, Councilman Phillips, that's just me being formal. I said this before when we had the ribbon cutting for the, what was it, the EV Center, where someone from the community will bring something to you and then you will stay on it, not put it on the back burner and push it forward. And you've done it again. So thank you very much. I think this is going to be extremely beneficial to our community and to families that want to support their elders in aging in place and being close to them, but still giving them their space. Or for assisting other folks, like if you want to assist someone, college student that wants to have reasonable housing, and you can be in our community and do that. Or if you want to, I don't know how, excuse me, how the ADUs will work as far as like having a small family in it. If you were a single parent though, I'm sure that you could be able to do that and benefit from our school district. So this is monumental and I sincerely thank you all for this work. And can't wait to vote this into an ordinance that will take effect.
The mayor just said everything I was thinking. So in summary, full support. Thank you for your work. I do have a process question just to make sure that we're not accidentally creating any extra steps. So if I want to build an ADU and I have to get permits anyways, that's likely going to go through planning and zoning and then design and review afterwards, or would that not go to design and review at all? I don't think it needs to. I'm curious about the life cycle of that.
I'm going to defer to Anthony as far as the actual sequence, but yes.
We would run those approvals concurrently. So it just depends on the time, whenever you turn your application submittal in, similar to what we would do with any new construction. They can, whether it be a restaurant that wants a sign, we in order to expedite the request, we will do those as quickly as possible and oftentimes do them concurrently.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Thank you.
In addition, just to clarify that, yes, these would go through design and review process. That's specifically within the ordinance. So planning and zoning, as with any other conditional use, planning and zoning has the same information that we ultimately get in terms of the impact on the community. A couple of things that could potentially come up as questions from the community that have just come up within conversation, either within planning and zoning or the Human Services Commission. The first was just talking about the conditional use process, permit process to begin with. We want to make that more clear to the community. So whether it's a conditional use for a restaurant or, some other non-conforming use within a single family residential, we're going to make that more clear and create a one-sheeter, a cheat sheet, if you will. For instance, Anthony had compared it to like someone when they're building a fence, to give them all of the information that they need. So staff has generously offered to go ahead and do that for this case, so that someone either interested in building an ADU will have that information. We'll put it on the website, of course, but also someone in the neighborhood who is notified that their neighbor may be looking for an ADU will also be able to find what those, what those requirements are for the conditional use. Something else that we had talked about is the public hearing notice. Currently, the public hearing notice for any conditional use is properties within 300 feet. And we're going to expand that in this case, or the recommendation is that we expand that to 500 feet. Because if we think about adding an ADU in the middle of a block, it may add additional impact parking wise to someone at the end of the block who might be outside of that 300-foot radius. So we had talked last week about expanding that radius to 500 feet in the case of ADUs. And then finally, just a note that we are not requiring additional parking because the conversation that was had at planning and zoning was more along the lines of some places have problems with parking and others don't. So if there's not an issue with parking, it shouldn't necessarily limit someone to have to create additional parking. The requirement for single family residential is currently 2 spaces. So we're not requiring parking in addition to that. So just for clarification.
I just want to add gratitude or a statement of gratitude for Planning and Zoning and Human Services Commission as well, because it's important to have their insight and feedback and also for them to be on board with this as well. And so knowing that they are unanimously is a beautiful thing. So thank you to them as well. Any further discussion on accessory dwelling units? Hearing none, I am excited to see this on the agenda at the next meeting. First and second reading, y'all. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned.